Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us for this special edition of our office hours. My name is George Soto, one of the co-founders here at Asset Mule, joined by my co-founder and CEO, Justin Dorfman, and special guest, Rahul Jain, who is co-founder and CEO at Noble. We're going to dive into a lot of stuff today, but the overarching topic is really the future of social proof, right? We've said it before and we'll say it again. We've all been there when we've gotten a call from a friend and they're asking about something that we've purchased or a restaurant or a variety of different scenarios. And that recommendation, the ability to get insight or that reference from a connection of yours, whether they're an intimate friend or a professional connection, is so powerful. In fact, Justin and I were talking about how we used to carry a bag when we were sales folks in the past. And one of our favorite tactics was connecting the prospect with a happy customer. And it was like certainly a lot more effective when they already knew each other. So we're going to dive into some of the details, but Rahul, real quick, why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself and what inspired you to start Noble?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Jorge. So hello, everybody. My name is Rahul Jain. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Noble. Before starting Noble, I led sales at a few healthcare companies. Cedar, which had acquired Uda Health before that, where I led payer sales at both companies. And then prior to that, I actually started a medication management, medication adherence company. And so that's actually how I got into sales. I was a year out of college. I was doing management consulting. And then we actually started this medication adherence company. And as a 23-year-old, I was trying to figure out how to sell to these multi-billion-dollar health insurance companies. And, as a 23-year-old selling to these large payers, I thought enterprises had these really sophisticated buying processes. But what I found out is these chief medical officers at these large health plans, they were still texting their buddies. They were still back channeling. They still buy enterprise software the same way that a lot of us buy consumer products that are high consideration. And that was kind of an eye-opening kind of experience for me in my mid-20s, kind of getting into enterprise sales for the first time. And I just kept seeing this over and over and over, like as I was selling for the last 10 years, where buyers, they aren't, professional buyers. They have a day job. They have other things that they're busy with. What they really want to do is figure out like how to solve their problem and do it quickly. And there's no better way than back channeling to people that you know and trust who use those products.
That's awesome. No, I totally resonate with that story. And as George mentioned last week when we were chatting, we were talking about experiences where we're in a sales process and you have to reach out to your happy customer that you want to bring in, and sometimes it can be a little awkward as well, right? Because like you might not have a ton of those customers that well enough to bring in, and you're constantly reusing them. So one of the things that I think is really cool about what you guys are doing at Noble is really scaling that process, right? Where it's not about who I, the salesperson, think is the best person to bring in. It's about who that prospect actually knows, right, and is connected with. So maybe you can tell us a little bit about Noble itself for those that aren't as familiar. It sounds pretty clear, like how you came up with the idea, you experienced it yourself. Those are the best sort of solutions to bring for folks to bring to market. But like, what is Noble? What does it do? And how are people using it today?
Yeah, absolutely. So with Noble, we focus on word of mouth recommendations, otherwise known as back channeling. So what we do is we make it really easy for your buyers or prospects to see which of your happy customers they know so they can reach out and chat with them. So the way we partner with vendors is they can put Noble wherever those buyers are. So if it's a salesperson and they're sending over an Asset Mule document to their prospects, within that document itself, you can embed Noble so that those prospects can see who they know as they're in that sales asset, and then back channel with them there. Vendors can also put Noble directly on their website. So we have some of our customers who add Noble on their homepage logo wall and on their customer pages. So it's a banner on the site that the prospect can click. They enter in their email so we know who they are. And then we recommend users that prospect is most likely to know based off of like where they've worked in the past, where they went to school, and other demographic information. And then you can also embed Noble in outbound emails. So if you're doing prospecting and you want to be able to cut through the noise and actually get the attention of your prospects, You can send them an email that talks about the problem you solve and the people they know that use your product, so they can reach out and chat with them as like a top of funnel function. But the whole idea is that we want to be able to use word of mouth recommendations to get in front of your buyers and to really encourage these back channel conversations. Because I think when buyers are, even if they're iffy on the product or they're on the fence about a particular solution, hearing from somebody that they know and trust that uses your product that is delivering results can make all the difference in the world in terms of them prioritizing it or even moving forward with that solution.
Yeah, makes total sense. I'm curious, as you think about folks before they adopt Noble, what are they doing to provide social proof, right? And what do you think about sort of the current state of social proof? Like, I've heard you on LinkedIn, I've seen you talk about it being broken and so on. So I'd love to kind of unpack that a little bit. What are the tactics that people are using today? Why is it no longer effective? And how do you compare that to Noble and what you guys are bringing to the table?
Yeah, I mean, I think everything over time eventually gets gamed by marketers and salespeople who are trying to use whatever is out there to exploit it and try to sell more. So if you think about reviews back in the early 2000s, like when Yelp came out, like reviews were great. It's like you can hear what people are saying about products. And then suddenly vendors are paying customers to leave really good reviews. Or if there's a bad review, they'll go in and they'll talk to that person who leaves a review to get to ask them to take that review down. And eventually like people stop leaving reviews, or it's only people that get paid to leave reviews that leave those reviews, or people who like absolutely hate the product. Like you don't actually get the middle 99% of users leaving reviews. Other types of social proof that we see today is like, I think every marketer or salesperson has essentially drafted a quote or a testimonial for their customers, being like, hey, is this good? Can we put this up on our website? So it's not actually something coming from the customer. It's the sales and marketing team who's drafting this. They're putting essentially the words in the customer's mouth. And the customer says, yeah, that's fine. You can put my name on it. Or it's a case study that it's like the top 0.001% of your customers and their results and their ROI, but it isn't indicative of how the average user uses your product or the results that they're seeing. Or kind of the last example I'll give in terms of like social proof today that is on almost every B2B company's homepage is that customer logo wall, where you go, you land on their website, and typically right above the fold at the bottom of the screen, there'll be a logo wall of about 10 to 20 customer logos. I mean, that's awesome. But when every company has that, it kind of loses its impact. Similar to like a G2 badge, where like if every company has a G2 badge, it kind of becomes table stakes and it kind of loses a lot of its meaning. And so that's kind of what we see in terms of the current state of social proof out there, where everybody's kind of doing the same thing. So it's hard to stand out in the eye of the buyer. And so what buyers are doing today is naturally they're back channeling, they're talking to people they know as a starting point. And so one of the things we actually want to do with Noble is instead of being on the vendor's website as they're evaluating a tool, actually making Noble the destination for the buyer where they can back channel, see kind of like, go to Noble site, type in the problem that they have, and then we show them what's out there and which of their friends use those products. So it could be kind of a starting point in the journey versus now it's kind of a pit stop along the way.
I love that for a variety of reasons. Question, do you see Noble as more of a sort of part of a customer marketing strategy where maybe you still do have logos and things like that, but you sort of interweave this very, very powerful direct connection layer to the actual customers? Or do you think it's something that sort of maybe replaces these old school kind of tactics?
Yeah, I think it complements everything that's out there. Like we, for example, we're partnering with G2 and Trust Radius. So, reviews are always going to exist. People want to see what, other people are saying about the product, but they also want to back channel. Similarly, like people want to go to a website, they want to see the case studies. So you're going to have companies like User Evidence, who's, a portfolio company of the VCs that we're also working with. And so they're getting, case studies, they're getting a lot of the quantitative data that's out there. So, the way I think about how Noble fits into the landscape is I think it complements everything that's out there, but I think it's a lot more buyer focused than the other solutions because, you really can't game these conversations that are happening behind closed doors. And so that's what kind of the beauty of it is, that if a prospect is talking to a customer they know, that customer is going to be more honest with that person that they know, because their allegiance is with their friend. It's not with the vendor who they may be using that product. So, maybe we'll find out that the vendors are gaming it in the future. We need to adjust, but at least kind of the approach that we're taking now is we think that this is an approach that actually can't be gamed by sales and marketing teams, but we'll see what happens.
Well, I always said that relationship that you build is so important, right? Between a vendor and the customer. And so if somehow they're able to convince that human customer to game it, I guess maybe that's not so bad. But I did have a couple questions regarding who that ideal user is for Noble, right? And how are they using it? What kind of sort of results are they seeing right now?
Yeah, great question. So I just clarify, when you say user, do you mean like vendor, or do you mean like a buyer or prospect?
Yeah, great question. So if I'm an organization out there and I'm looking to potentially purchase Noble as a solution to power this new world of social proof and kind of scaled back channeling, what should I like? What do I look like? How do you fit the best into what kind of organization?
Yeah, great question. So I would say, like, just as a starting point, you want to have product market fit, because the one thing you can't hide with Noble is if your product doesn't work. So in some ways, it's going to be signaling, where if a company isn't using Noble, at some point that's going to be indicative of, like, okay, maybe they actually don't want me talking to users that I know. So I would say, as a starting point, you should feel confident that you have product market fit. And then you also have to have enough customers where a buyer or prospect is likely to know somebody who uses your product. So typically, like from a B2B SaaS perspective, we say we want you to have at least 400 individual users of the product. And that could be, 50 companies. And of those 50 companies, they have like 10 users per company. So essentially, like, you get to enough individual users, so the likelihood of a buyer having a match or knowing somebody that uses the product it is high at that point. And then in terms of where you put Noble, if you're adding Noble to your website, we recommend that you should have at least 400 or 500 individual visitors to your website a day. Because if you don't have that much traffic, it's just a funnel, like so many things are, where you're going to get 2 to 3% of people that see Noble to click on it and use it, which is a phenomenal conversion rate and engagement rate. But you just need to have that many eyeballs that get to the site to use it. But you can also add Noble to outbound emails, so you can reach the buyer even if they're not on your website. But I would say the main thing is have product market fit, be confident in your product, and you should have at least 400 individual users of that product. And in terms of like categories, right now we're starting with B2B products and services. But over time, I think, a few years out, I think Noble would work great for B2B products as well as high-end consumer products as well. We're starting in the B2B world, but there's no reason that Noble couldn't work for high-end consumer products as well.
Yeah, totally makes sense. And one thing I wanted to add that I hear is for the folks out there, and just real quick, if you do have any questions, comments, feedback, go ahead and comment on. I see there are a couple folks on LinkedIn joining us. Go ahead and put it in the comments area, and we'll go ahead and get to those questions. But real quick, Rahul, one of the things I heard was this actually uncovers the sort of lifts the veil, right, that a lot of organizations have. And if you do this, right, it could potentially, to your point, expose or create a more transparency, right, and expose maybe if you're not doing great, right, and there's a learning opportunity there, which I think is distinctly different than other social proof sort of approaches where, you can have like a bunch of stuff on G2 or whatever, right? And it doesn't really sort of explain or lift the veil here in the way that Noble does. So I just wanted to kind of highlight this. I think this is incredible.
Yeah.
To me, go ahead, Raul.
Oh, I was just going to say, like, it comes up in a lot of conversations, especially if I talk to the CEO first, and the CEO is like, people love our product. It's amazing. It's, the best thing since sliced bread. And then I talk to like their marketing team, and the marketing team is like, no, that's not the truth. Like, we have a lot of things to figure out, and we're not quite ready to use Noble because we just don't have product market fit or something like that. So, I think when companies get to that point, then Noble is going to be a great accelerant. But if you're still super early stage, you're figuring out product market fit, which is natural for any early stage company. I think once you get to the point where you're like, okay, like this actually solves a problem, it works well, then Noble can help you accelerate. But you probably don't want to start using it, before you feel confident about having product market fit.
Yeah, I was going to say that. I was going to ask you if you ever get people that are kind of a little scared or nervous to put Noble on their website because they kind of, in some ways, you lose control, right? You're no longer the one providing the narrative to the buyer on why you're so great. You're giving it into the hands of users that, again, if it's somebody that knows that prospect and is friendly with them, they're going to give them the honest truth, right? So it kind of pushes you to build a better product, right? And to have confidence in the solution that you're bringing to market, which I think overall is a good thing, right? Like in the end, it's all about buyer enablement. And this is a clear form of buyer enablement where you need to have the confidence. You can't hide behind just putting logos on your website, whether some of those logos might be really happy customers, others might be churned customers that are no longer users, but you keep them on your website. Or as you said, quotes that your marketing team wrote or case studies that your marketing team wrote and got approval from. You really have to have that confidence that your product is delivering value, right? Which is really important. Quick question on measurement. How are you seeing marketers measure the impact of social proof in general, but specifically Noble? And maybe you can tell us a little bit about, some metrics do you guys provide and some results actually maybe that your customers have experienced using Noble.
Yeah, absolutely. I think in general, it is hard to measure social proof as a whole. I think what we do that's unique at Noble is that anytime a prospect uses Noble, they have to give us their email address so we can show them who they know that uses the product. So in some ways, that helps us with attribution because we can always tell when a prospect uses Noble and then if they book a demo afterwards or if they purchase afterwards. So in terms of just in like our goal for Noble is to increase and accelerate sales for a vendor. So what we look in terms of success is like how many people are booking demos and then how many people are ultimately purchasing your product. And so in terms of how we measure that, if you have Noble on your website, what you can do is add a conversion tracker to your thank you page on the demo request. So if somebody uses Noble on the website and then books a demo and gets to your thank you page, we automate that attribution. So we'll be able to tell you, okay, who used Noble and then booked a demo thereafter. If you use Noble like on a review site or like in outbound email or in your like Asset Mule documents or anywhere else, we will still give the vendor a list of users by account name and then URL, so they can then track it in their CRM to be like, when did this person use Noble? And then when did they book a demo or something like that, so they can track it within their own system. And then we can also send you a Slack alert. So every time a prospect uses Noble, we'll send you an alert with the company name that is using Noble. We don't share individual names of buyers because we want to avoid that SDR being like, Jon Snow is back-channeling me right now. Let me give him a cold call. Because I feel like if that happens, buyers will stop using Noble. And so we only share account level information back with the vendor.
That makes sense. And in terms of you mentioned speeding up sales processes is kind of and win rates, right, is the main goal here. What are some of the results that your customers have reported back to you? And I think before launching, if I remember correctly, I think I read somewhere that you guys did extensive research to make sure that, this thing really does provide that level of value. What are some of the stats that you guys found?
Yeah, we've had some great early access customers like at the end of last year that really helped us just track attribution and really if this moved the needle. And what we saw in those rollouts is that when prospects used Noble, they converted twice as fast as those who didn't. Wow. So we literally compressed the entire sales cycle by half for one of our customers. Another customer saw that when prospects use Noble on their website, their likelihood to book a demo was 20 times those who didn't use Noble. So essentially drastically increasing their website conversion rate. And then another customer reported that Noble influenced $5 million worth of pipeline, $2 million worth of which then converted to revenue. So they actually purchased the product after they use Noble. So, we're seeing definitely a positive trend that when prospects use Noble, they back channel, they talk to users they know, they're more likely to purchase your product and then purchase faster. Obviously, Noble is one part of the puzzle. We're not trying to say that Noble is the only reason that they converted, but we are seeing that it definitely helps accelerate those conversions.
Awesome.
Yeah, well, we know, everyone who's been in business understands the power of those connections. So, I think it's just like table stakes. In fact, I was talking to a CEO recently, and they were just like, we need social proof. In fact, I'm going to recommend Noble. They only, they're early stage, so that's the only thing that I was thinking through. But real quick, you kind of talked about this here, but maybe we can double click quickly before we dive into kind of a demo here. But when you think about Noble and particularly sales assets, right, that are used in one-to-one scenarios, of course, I'm biased, but I think AssetMule is the best option for most organizations to do that. How do you think like Noble sort of plays, or what role do you think it plays within the sales asset one-to-one use case?
Yeah, first of all, I love what you guys are doing. And I think this partnership gets me really excited because I used to sell to health insurance companies. And there would always come a point at the end of the sale when they were in evaluation where there'd be a buyer committee at that large health plan or like typically any enterprise. And so this is where your champion then has to go in and essentially pitch their team on why they should use your product. And so they have to get in front of the CFO and like other decision makers and like eventually the executive buyer being like, hey, I believe that we should spend X number of thousands of dollars on this product or millions of dollars on this product. And here's why. The challenge at that point is like, as a salesperson, you lose all control of the narrative. And so you've got to do everything you possibly can to train that champion and to enable them to sell your product effectively for you, because you can't be a part of those conversations yourself. And so what I love about what you guys are doing at AssetMule is that you're essentially enabling that champion to sell your product for you. And the combination of adding Noble into that sales asset, I think is really powerful, because if you're that CFO, as much as you love your team, you don't really trust them. Like, you trust other CFOs. If you're that executive buyer, you still want to talk to other executives that are in your position that are using the product. And so what Noble in this like integration with AssetMule actually enables is in those buying committees, your champion can essentially give that Noble link to their team and be like, hey, just don't take even my word for it. Talk to other CFOs that use this product. Talk to other executive buyers and see what their experience is. Because when they hear from other people that they trust, it will have that same impact on them and give them the confidence they need to move forward. So that's where I see the most value in Noble in terms of using it into something like AssetMule.
Yeah, and we share that excitement. I think, that vision of enabling the buyer to sell on your behalf has always been at the heart of AssetMule. And now taking it to the next level by adding that layer of social proof to it is just, so much in line with that vision and really empowers it. I know we only have a couple minutes left, so I'm going to do a quick demo for the folks that are tuning in on the Noble integration. And I'll hop over to Noble as well so that we can see, how you get set up and all that stuff. But let me share my screen and show how you can start using Noble in your AssetMule assets. All right. So hopping over to AssetMule, this is a interactive asset that I've built. In this case, the example is for HubSpot. And you'll see the usual stuff that if you're familiar with AssetMule is on the page. We've got, the personalized header. We're calling out the company by name. I've dropped in this nice little Loom video, sort of adding that human touch. And, the usual logos and interactive demo and calendar at the bottom to schedule the meeting. So, personalized and interactive, but we want to add that layer of real world social proof, right? And that's exactly where Noble comes into play. So what you can do is add a section to your asset, choose the one column section, and now you'll see the new Noble component that you can bring into your asset. And if you're already a Noble user, if you already have a Noble account, it's as easy as adding your domain, and we'll add your Noble widget right into the Asset Mule asset. If you're not a Noble user, you can try it for free by clicking the button here, and it'll take you to Noble to sign up for their free trial. But when you do get set up with Noble, the first thing that you do is actually upload your customer list. So I've already done that. I've uploaded our customer list here. And I think, remind me, Rahul, you can upload your customer list, and then also if there's not a match, there's also this customer safety net. Maybe you can talk a little bit about that and what that does.
Yeah, absolutely. So if a buyer doesn't know anybody that uses your product yet, then what you can essentially do is upload a list of reference customers that essentially serve as a safety net. So even if the prospect doesn't know anybody, there could be a few customers that they can still reach out to and ask about their experience. So that's one way we just ensure that even if there's like an empty state or the buyer doesn't know anybody, they still have the ability to talk to a customer and ask about their experience.
And I also noticed that you guys have this competitors list. So if I understand correctly, this is to avoid this situation where a competitor, maybe not so much on an asset like an Asset Mule asset, but goes to your website and starts trying to look through your customer list, right? You can also, you guys, it seems like you've thought of a lot of things here to prevent that sort of hacking of the system.
Yeah, I think we've gotten every possible objection to Noble over the last like year and a half. But yes, so we can block competitors. So if you give us a list of your competitors, we will make sure that they're blocked so they can't back channel to your customers. And we do this by, even if they try to give us a fake email, we'll look at their IP address. And if it just doesn't look like it's matching up, we'll actually make them log into LinkedIn and kind of verify who they are. So it is really hard to trick and try to get around that, but we will block competitors from using Noble.
Awesome. So yeah, we've set up our Noble accounts, so I can just put in our domain, and now we've got the Noble widget right in the asset. So if I were now to share this asset with a prospect, and I'm just going to grab the link here and jump over to another tab here to show what it looks like, you'll now see this is sort of the view from the prospect's perspective, the live asset. They'll now see the Noble widget in here. And what they can do is go ahead and put in their email address. I'm just going to put in mine as an example here. And now Noble is looking through my network, and they found a bunch of people that I know that I can reach out to. And just with one click, I can email Greg over here or send him a LinkedIn message, say, hey, I noticed that you're an Asset Mule user, would love to schedule a call with you and learn about your experience. And again, George and I were talking about this last week, like this process would have taken, so much time and effort. And again, it would have felt a little, awkward reaching out to the same, customer every time to try and pull them into these calls. And it wouldn't have that level of credibility, that connection of real world relationship. And what Noble is doing here is it's really scaling that process where now the salesperson doesn't have to reach out to the customer. Automatically, these customers, these happy customers that are connected with this specific prospect are revealed right here. And the prospect can actually take in control and reach out to them and schedule that conversation. And one other thing I'll just show real quick, I'll hop over back to Asset Mule, is we are also, just like all our components in Asset Mule, we are tracking as well, interactions with the Noble widget. So we do show you that somebody in this particular asset did click on the Noble components. But as Rahul said as well, there are ways in Noble as well to get some more information on who's engaging with the widget, who's putting in their information, what company, and so on. So that's the quick demo here.
Awesome. Yeah. And in a world where we're really thinking about buying intent signals, we've been talking about asynchronous selling ad nauseum for 5 or 6 years now, give or take. And so, being able to understand this world and the bottom line is like, that's a great intent signal, right? If they're clicking on your Noble and, widget and digging in, right? Like that tells you kind of where they're at, right? So it's a little further down the funnel than maybe somebody just looking at logos and things like that, right? Because they also are they're sort of showing their cards too, right? If they're going to go out and ask about your solution, again, it's a great intent signal. Folks, I know we are at time here. Thank you so much for joining us. If you do have any questions or comments, go ahead and put it on this. This is going to live in perpetuity here on YouTube and LinkedIn. We'll get to it after the fact. If this is your first time joining us, thank you so much. If you're a repeat offender, thank you for joining Justin and I here. Rahul, thank you so much for your time. We really are so grateful and super excited about this integration. And if folks wanted to maybe learn more about Noble or follow you and follow your journey, I know you have a lot of great content out there. I think I know the answer, but what are the best URLs or channels to reach you?
Yeah, LinkedIn is definitely the easiest way to reach me. You can also just shoot me an email at rahul@thatsnoble.com.
Awesome. Well, for everyone, have a wonderful Wednesday. Check out Asset Mule and Noble. Let us know what you think, and have a wonderful day.
Cool. Thanks for having me, guys.
Thank you.